All right, today I'm going to do a walk around of my homemade sawmill so you all can see how this is working. The tracks are made of old salvaged pallet racks that I cut and pieced together to be two 10-foot lengths. So I have 20 feet of length with a possibility of probably sawing probably up to a 16-foot log if I could handle that much. The rails are just sitting on 4x4s on blocks. The ground here is pretty solid, pretty rocky, so I'm not really worried about too much settling, but it's pretty level. I've got 4x4s bolted to the top that are going to hold my lumber. As you can see, I've cut about a set of oak logs here, 2 inches thick. They're about probably 12 to 14 foot long. This is just the scrap that's left over. The mill sits on a trolley that rolls on the track on 2-inch wheels upside down. The rails have an inverted 1.5 by 1.5 angle iron. They're spaced 36 inches apart. So in total, I can cut a log that's about 32 inches wide pretty successfully. The trolley is 2x2 pipe with 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing that slides up and down so I can adjust the height. I just am using a boat winch for that, but I substituted the typical boat winch cable pull. I put a chain, welded it on there. Nobody gets to make any complaints about my welding because I'm not the greatest welder, but I think for these purposes it'll work just fine. So the 1.5 by 1.5 inch square tubing slides up and down on 1 inch by 1 inch tubing. No, I'm sorry, the trolley is 2x2 square tubing, and this is 1.5 by 1.5 tubing. I made it kind of at an angle there because that allows for the height of the engine as I go to my highest setting, which I also should be able to get to about 32 inches of thickness there. The pulleys are 14.25 inch pulleys. I've used 3 pillow block bearings on a 1-inch axle. I started out with 2 pillow blocks, and I was a little bit worried because one of them actually showed a crack in it after I went for a while, and so I replaced the pillow block with 3 of them. And these are also solid bottom, which is really important. The first set that I bought were hollow bottoms, and I didn't realize that when I ordered them. I should have known because they were cheaper. But anyway, the 3 seems to be working really well. I'm using a scissor jack off an old Nissan, I think it is, to tighten the saw blade. So that carriage slides in and out. This is a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch, slides in and out of a 2 inch by 2 inch square tubing. I started out with a 9-horse Briggs & Stratton engine that just didn't quite have enough power to it to go through this hardwood. So I just recently replaced that with a 14-horse Kohler, and the difference is absolutely amazing. It just cuts through the hardwood like butter. It's very, very nice. I'm using, today I've been experimenting with the lubricating liquids. I've got a tank with water and pine sol in it, just to provide a little bit of lubrication and so that the blade doesn't get gummed up. It's just a real simple little plastic valve I can turn to let the water flow onto the blade. using an 1.25 inch blade. This is the first one I've bought, so I bought 5 of them. This one seems to be holding up pretty well. I'm using Cook's blade guides. I bought the assembly, and then I fashioned the brackets that fit to my carriage. These brackets then can be loosened here, and the whole carriage, the blade guide will slide in and out so that I can get it as close to my piece that I'm working on as I can. I've got 2 of those, one on each side. These things seem to work really, really well. When I replaced the Kohler engine, I also had previously used a belt drive with a centrifugal clutch on the 9 horsepower engine, but when I replaced it with the 14 horsepower Kohler, I got a chain drive centrifugal clutch, attached it to the Kohler, and that is driving my pulley. I've got a 9-inch sprocket, and so by the time I leave the centrifugal clutch to the 9-inch sprocket, I'm getting a lot of torque there, so the engine is just barely idling. I don't really have to throttle it up much. The engine's still new, so I'm working on breaking that in. This side of the trolley also has the adjustable pillow block, so I can put my jack in here. I tighten up the chain on the left side of the mill, and then I can bolt it down with my bolts here. I decided to go with a pulley system for raising and lowering the carriage, and I used a double pulley system because I felt like I could get more lift from it than just a single pulley. It seems to be working really well, so that's nice. So right now, this is pretty dialed in. I've been playing with it now for several weeks. This is my first run today using the 14 horsepower Kohler, and I'm amazed by how it didn't hesitate at all cutting through 2-inch slabs of oak. So it'd be fun to maybe get a little bit wider timber next time and see what it'll do. I can only imagine that pine or cedar would be really, really fast. So altogether, I'm kind of impressed. I'm kind of proud of myself, I guess. It took a while. There's a lot of mechanics involved and things that I've never been involved in before, but it seems to be working really well. It slides great, it rolls. I can push it with basically just my fingertips. No problem at all. So that's a look at my homemade sawmill. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm certainly not an expert, but I've made enough mistakes that I maybe could help someone avoid those on their own. I'm not going to say it's inexpensive because right now parts are kind of hard to get. You got to be a little bit patient when you order things. Sometimes you don't get exactly what you want, but all in all, I'm pretty happy. The square tubing was probably shockingly expensive when I went to order it. I ended up with 2 sticks of 20-foot long 1.5 by 1.5 square tubing. I had 1 stick of 2-inch by 2-inch square tubing, also 24 foot long, and 2 sticks of 1-inch by 1-inch square tubing. I still have some of that left, but I used the 1-inch for the smaller little brackets, my holder for my water tank, and you know, altogether that's in and of itself is about $1,000. The rest of the stuff isn't too bad. Of course, the Kohler engine set me back about $400. So, but it's still cheaper than buying a pre-built mill. So once again, I thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, and I'll see if I can answer those for you. The next thing I have to build is a shroud to protect the front blade guard. But really, standing behind that huge carriage, pushing that carriage, I feel pretty safe. I've not thrown a blade yet, and there's really nowhere for it to go that would be dangerous. But I wouldn't want to have anybody walking across the yard if that happened, because that blade will definitely take off rolling. But it seems to be holding on pretty well. The hardest part is getting those two pulleys perfectly aligned. There needs to be enough adjustment so that you can tow in, tow out that pulley. So all of my pillow blocks have a little bit of oversized holes so that I can move that just a little bit. Just a tiny adjustment will tow in and tow out the pulleys quite a bit. But right now it seems to be dialed in pretty well, and it's working well. So I just keep thinking of things that I should say, but I appreciate a thumbs up if you like this video, and I'll see if I can put out more, and then I'll answer questions as they come. Thank you very much.